My name is Jennifer Hatch, and this is my Persuasive PRO Speech on the Bowl Championship Series versus what we have today in the College Football Playoff. I have my 5 willing participants in the room with me. Please show your faces. Thank you. In 1936, the Associated Press, also known as the AP polls, were released every week. There were 61 sports writers and broadcasters that would get together, and they would come up with who they thought their top 25 teams were in the country. And then we would have a list. At the end of the year, whoever they thought was the national champion was the national champion. No game played outside of the regular conference games. In 1998, the BCS was created, the Bowl Championship Series. This was a computer-generated system that looked at 3 different aspects. It looked at the Harris Poll, the USA Today polls, as well as computer rankings. The computer rankings had all kinds of different aspects of its formula. It had the strength of schedule, the recencies of the games, win-loss ratios, home field advantage, things like that. All 3 of these would be mixed together into a special formula that would give a team their BCS ranking every week. Again, we have top 25 teams in the country. At the end of the season, we would have only 2 teams that would compete for the national championship, again, based off the BCS rankings. This was all well and fine until 2005 when the Auburn Tigers went 13-0, the perfect undefeated season, even winning their SEC championship, SEC being the conference that they played in. Many teams were angered because the BCS polls did not determine the Auburn Tigers as the number 1 or number 2 team in the country. That season, it belonged to the University of Southern California and Texas, who played an epic game in determining who the national champion was, but fans were still angered. Auburn should have had a chance. They should have had a shot. What can be done? What can we do differently? We need more teams to help us decide who the national champion was. So, in 2014, we had our first college football playoff. The college football playoff is a bracket system that pits 4 teams together in a semifinal, and then those 2 winners will go into a final match to determine who the national champion is every year. One of the pros about the college football playoff system is that it adds a human logic, so we don't run into another Auburn situation to where we have a 13-0 team who is sitting on the outside looking in every year. We have a committee of 12 different members, all affiliated within college football in some way, shape, or form. 12 of these 12 people meet together every week in Texas to decide who the top 25 teams are in the country. The 12 members of the committee range from different members of actual government. Condoleezza Rice is a member, as well as former and current athletic directors and coaches. One of the former coaches being Vanderbilt great Bobby Johnson, and a special shout out to the state of Arkansas, the current AD Jeff Long. What does this extra bracket mean? Here's a bracket in front of us. All 5 of my participants have a copy of this in front of them, and for those that can't see, there is a copy of this attached to the bottom of my outline. This is what our bracket looked like for the year 2015, where we had, again, the top 4 teams in the country compete in 2 different semifinal games. In 2015, you had Oregon and FSU playing in the Rose Bowl, and you had Alabama and OSU, Ohio State, playing in the Sugar Bowl. At the end of these two games, Ohio State won from the Sugar bracket, and Oregon won from the Rose Bowl bracket. Ohio State won in a really big death match, 42-20. Again, we have finally determined who the outright champion should be for the year. What does this mean for college football in terms of revenue? Well, more games, more money. Now that we've added 2 more games to the end of the season, we've now generated an additional $200 million back into college football. Where does that money go? It goes to the conferences, it goes to the universities, and they use these for updating their campuses, scholarship opportunities, and things like that. It also helps kind of recuperate the cost that it takes for them to travel to these games, which costs teams an average $100 million a year just to travel to these special bowl games. But the return is even greater. They've earned over $500 million last year just in all of these additional, not only these additional games, but the 39 other bowl games that are played during this time. College football is a big moneymaker to universities everywhere. The more games, the merrier. Fans actually are not 100% okay with this, and they're still wanting more. They want more games. We want a 16 bracket. We want an 18 bracket. With this, we can have the champions from all 5 of the power conferences playing in the bracket play, as well as some other teams who may be just as deserving. Maybe a team that has 1 loss. Maybe a team who was really great and had an off day and lost their championship series actually just does need to be within the college football playoff system. There's something a little bit unfair about a formula determining who the national championship should be every year. With the bracket play, we're actually leaving this out all on the field. There's no questions asked. We have the top teams on the field at the end of every season competing their hearts out. And again, we're getting a true national champion by having all of these teams converge together in a quarterfinal, hopefully one day, a semifinal, and a national championship bracket. I'd like to thank the 5 people that are in this room with me today for listening on. Could you please show yourself again? Thank you, guys. And I'd like to thank all of you guys that have watched as well. Thank you.